This is Twit.
Before we dive into the specifics of the bill, who is Senator Josh Hawley in the scope of this story? What is his background in Congress as it relates to the business of big tech?
So he is a freshman senator from Missouri. He's the youngest senator. I think he's 39. And he was the Attorney General of Missouri before coming into the Senate. And as Attorney General, he had a couple of actions against big tech. So he prompted this antitrust probe into Google. And he's brought this antagonistic attitude towards tech into Congress. And he's kind of tried really hard to make a name for himself as the strongest critic of big tech among the Republicans. So there are a number of Democratic senators who've been speaking out against Facebook, Twitter, YouTube for a long time, but he has brought that criticism more prominently to the Republican side of the aisle.
And then, of course, I rattled off the name of this act. It's easier to just call it SMART, the SMART Act. Yeah. What does it call for exactly? What's going on inside this?
So it specifically outlaws a couple of features that he says are designed solely to keep users addicted. So that would include autoplay, YouTube's autoplay, infinite scroll. So when you're on Twitter, it just keeps going and going. When you're on Facebook, keeps going and going. And also something that sounds and looks an awful lot like Snapchat's Snap Streak. And then it also requires these companies to build, quote unquote, user-friendly interfaces. So they would require the companies to build in these timers so that it tells you when you've been on for 30 minutes. It allows you to totally dictate when you're going to get kicked off the platform, and a couple of other changes to the product that are similar to that.
I want to go back to what you said about the Snapchat streaks, the Twitter and Facebook. I mean, Twitter and Facebook are kind of, their whole point is the endless stream. And with Snapchat, I know people are not, like my younger siblings are obsessed with their streaks. There's even an article or several articles online that show you how to contact Snapchat to get your streak back. So my question for you is kind of about that. Like, do we think that this bill here who is this for? Because is it for the person who uses Snapchat to communicate with their friends and wants to maintain their streak? You think this is going to end up upsetting those people? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's already upset people. I think people have responded to this bill by saying it seems really extreme. It's kind of doesn't happen very often. The Congress will weigh in and tell social media companies how to build their products. And it's interesting you mentioned young users, because I know that Senator Hawley has relatively young children. And I think that he has learned and witnessed the power of the Snap Streak firsthand. And it obviously, I mean, like children, or younger people they're not even saying anything when they send Snapchats back and forth. They just want to keep the streak alive.
Yeah, I think the big question that I have around this is like, what exactly qualifies addictive behavior, or something that caters to, air quotes, addictive behavior? Is this something that do we know details at this point as far as how broadly or defined or how specific it is, and how it applies maybe even to behaviors in apps and services that haven't been created yet? Like, how does the term addictive get applied to these features?
Yeah, so I think they address that question in the text of the bill. So they lay out these specific things that I've named: autoplay, infinite scroll, Snap Streak. But then they say every 3 years, the Department of Health and Human Services and the Federal Trade Commission will be revisiting the question. So they're going to be able to rewrite the rules to adapt as technology adapts. So to be able to stay in line with the technology, create new rules that would limit any new addictive features that come out.
Some of these features, I would say, are pretty similar to what you see in casinos and how you know what I mean? Keeping people locked into a casino so that they continue to place bets and keep gambling. Is there any rationale about how one application of this is okay and another application of it is not? You know, it's perfectly legal for casinos to employ these tactics, but for social media companies, it's not. And why the line?
I think the idea is that the stakes are a little higher when it comes to social media, just because of there are far more people on social media every single day than there are people going physically to casinos every single day. Right. So I think the idea is, I probably, if you ask Senator Josh Hawley, I don't know if he'd be really excited about all of the tactics casinos employ, but I think it would be treated differently because we all have social media.
Interesting. Then I think of coffee shops. I mean, we're going to those addictive places, and I imagine Holly has some coffee in the morning. But my question for you, how do the SMART Act's sort of rules compare to what companies are already doing? So think of Instagram and its feature to sort of get you to log off after a while, or built-in features like Google and Apple offer with their operating systems.
Well, first, it would require them to tweak their products to offer that without you even asking to some extent. And I think it would build these products in more prominently, and it would require a lot of engineering so that the products are specifically geared towards mitigating some of these quote unquote addictive qualities. So I think it would just ask them to go a lot further, and they would also, bring the power of the law to enforce that.
Right. He's also made comments that Americans might actually be better off without social media entirely, which I don't know if that's just like a throwaway statement, like, oh, by the way, this is just how I feel, or whether that's a sign of things to come. Where do you think he stands on that? It'd be hard to get rid of social media, let's be honest.
It's definitely how he feels, but I don't think he has any intention of trying to ban Facebook, ban Twitter. I think what he wants is much stricter regulation of these platforms. And then also, there are people there's like Elizabeth Warren, and there's a lot of 2020 candidates who are saying, let's break up the big tech companies. He actually doesn't say that and doesn't agree with that, thinks it goes too far. He thinks there should just be really strict rules of the road. He says if we were to break up the tech companies, it would probably just create a lot of new tech companies with the same issues that he's identified. He just wants them to reorient their missions, I think is the best way to put it.